Wakey, wakey, the Kellogg's football camps are here, all over the country. It's game on. Learn new skills, make new friends, and have loads of fun at your local clubs. Grab your boots for a summer of football at the Kellogg's football camps. Parents, buy a promotional pack of Cocoa Pops, Rice Krispies, and cornflakes before the end of June to claim a free day. To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest defenders the world has ever seen, and probably one of the most no-nonsense players Portugal has ever seen. In fact, probably the most no-nonsense player on the planet. He's the record-breaking warrior who's still going strong into his 40s. And that, of course, is the phenomenal Pepe. Firstly, before we get into this episode on Pepe, a couple of your shout-outs and your messages. First up on the shout-out list is a massive shout-out to Henry from Bracknell. Henry listens to the podcast every single night, and it has inspired him to make his own podcast on rugby called Rugby for Kids, which he and his family listen to on their Yoto. Well, a massive shout out to you, Henry, from Bracknell. I'm really pleased to hear that you're enjoying the podcast, and I'm even more pleased to hear that it has inspired you. Keep up the great work your end, and one day, hopefully, I'll be able to listen to one of your episodes. Also, a massive shout out to the hundreds of you who have taken the time to write your list on the top 10 England players of all times. Baxter has sent me his, and his one goes number 1, Bobby Moore, number 2, Alan Shearer, number 3, Sir Bobby Charlton, number 4, Gary Lineker, number 5, David Beckham, then it's Harry Kane at number 6, then it's Gordon Banks at number 7, Wazza Wayne Rooney's in at number 8, Michael Owen is at 9, and Peter Shilton is at number 10. Amazing work, Baxter, so a massive shout out to you. And to your friend Seb, who also listens to the podcast. I know you wanted to get a shout out in for Seb, so there you go. If you've written your top 10 lists but haven't sent them through yet, then please ask an adult to take a picture and send them through to footballforkidspodcast@gmail.com, and we'll try to get a few more of those done on the next few episodes. Right then, that's all we've got time for in terms of shout-outs and messages on this episode, so let's get on with this episode about the simply incredible Pepe. Now, I'm going to give this a good go, and there's a good chance I'm going to properly butcher it, but Pepe's actual name is Kepler Levaran de Lima de Ferreira, aka Pepe. Pepe was born in Brazil on the 26th of February in 1983. Right, I guess you've got two questions. Why is he called Pepe? And why is he not playing for the Brazil national side? Well, he's called Pepe and known as Pepe as when he was younger, lots of people really struggled to pronounce his name properly. Pepe was one of the first names that he was referred to as, and it stuck ever since he was a young lad. And why does he play for Portugal and not Brazil? Well, it's a bit of a different one, and we'll answer that question in a short while. Pepe loved his football, and he worked very hard at it. He would train many hours throughout the week, studying in the evenings, as he knew how important it was to still do his schoolwork and how important education was in general. Pepe at one point decided he was going to call it a day with football, as it was very difficult to balance being a young aspiring footballer and doing all of his schoolwork. And he said to his mum he was going to quit. You can't quit, Pepe. You have got what it takes to go all the way. You just need to change your routine. His mum knew he had it within him. There was something about him, and thank goodness his mother could see it. Pepe had his eyes wide open when he was a youngster playing football, and he became frustrated with the game at points. He remembers not getting bundles of attention as he was a defender, and the ones who scored the goals were ultimately the ones who got the attention. Pepe was also a player who came from a poorer background. His family didn't have a lot of money at all, and they struggled quite a bit. Pepe remembers the kids in his teams who had parents who would financially support the team, and they would get more game time and other benefits because of the parents. Pepe felt from a young age that this wasn't an honest way of doing things, and he knew from the start that players should be picked to play for the team on their effort, their enthusiasm and what they brung to the game. Not because their parents had money and they put money into the club. Pepe knew this was wrong from the get-go. Pepe was actually brought up in Brazil, and it was reported that when he was in Brazil he played for a youth side known as the Corinthians. But it was when he was around 18 years old that he made the move to Portugal to play for a club called Marítimo. The reason he went to go and play for them is because the Portuguese team had some staff members who had noticed him in one of his matches for the Corinthians. He signed a deal to go to Portugal and play for the team. But on his last game for the Brazilian club, he went and broke his foot. An unbelievable bit of bad luck for young Pepe. So you might be thinking, if Pepe was born in Brazil and was there until he was 18, then why doesn't he play for Brazil? Well, to answer that question, we need to go back to his journey from the land of Brazil to Portugal. Pepe boarded a plane and off he went to Portugal, the beautiful land of Portugal. Pepe landed in Lisbon and was waiting for a connecting flight to Madeira. There were several hours before he would be boarding that flight. He had the equivalent of €5 in his wallet. He was broke, but not only that, he was extremely hungry. He had promised his mother that he would call her and let her know that he had landed and that he was okay. He looked at the €5 and then he looked at the baguette shop, and then he wondered what to do as his stomach rumbled once again. Pepe went to the baguette shop and said to the man that he was hungry, but he didn't have any money. The Portuguese man walked away and he came back with a baguette cut in two and told him that he could have it for free. Eat my friend, he told him. The kind gesture from this Portuguese man showed Pepe what the country of Portugal was all about. It was about accepting people, being thoughtful and looking after others. That moment made Pepe want to become a Portuguese citizen, and something which he has remembered for the rest of his life. So there Pepe was, playing for this Portuguese side. With his ball-winning aggressive style, it didn't take him long before he was becoming a regular face in the starting 11. Now, there's a good chance you would have seen Pepe do his thing on a football pitch over the years, and if you have, you'll know he's a bit of a hard tackler, especially when he's defending near his box. There are many memes knocking about on the internet of Pepe taking players out, and he's been like this pretty much since he was a kid. He's just a super focused player, and nothing is going to stop him from getting that football. He was asked about this in later life, and the interviewer had spent an hour or so of him and couldn't believe how nice he was, how kind he was, and how gentle he was. Pepe said it all changes when he crosses over that white line on a football pitch. It's business then. It's time to do what I do best. That's when the lovely Pepe turns into the super brutal take you out Pepe. Pepe spent about 3 or 4 years with the Portuguese club before it was time to move on to his next team. There he was, off to another club. And that other club would be FC Porto, where the unstoppable game-saving tackling Pepe would do his thing over and over again. And him doing his thing helped the club win back-to-back league titles. By this point, he was really starting to catch the eyes of all the big clubs in the world, from the Big Four in the Premier League to the Italian top division to the La Liga. And it was La Liga where his next stop would be. Pepe signed a 5-year deal with Real Madrid for a cool €30 million. There he was, that once young man who arrived in Portugal with a fiver in his pocket, had just been brought by the biggest football club in the world for 30 million euros. If that doesn't inspire you, well, I don't know what will. And I think that's a good place to leave part 1 on the story of the incredible defender that goes by the name of Pepe. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And remember that Kellogg's have amazing football camps taking place throughout the school summer holidays all across the country. In fact, they're in 73 different locations across the UK. The camps are for 5 to 15-year-olds and are in partnership with the EFL, Manchester City, Celtic and Rangers with FA approved coaches. To sign up today, grab a promotional pack of Kellogg's cereal, find the camp code and redeem a free place at www.kellogsfc.com. Terms and conditions apply.